Chairman Smith, Ranking Member Neal, thank you for joining us today. We're going to try to be efficient with your time. We'll give each of you 5 minutes for an opening statement. You don't have to use the whole time. Your written statement will be inserted into the record. Myself and the ranking member then will each control a total of 5 minutes each for questions by the panel. I'll now recognize you, Chairman Smith. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chairman Stile, Ranking Member Morelli, members of the committee for having us and for the opportunity to appear before the House Administration Committee to discuss our funding request for the 118th Congress. Americans watching the hearing should know that the Ways and Means Committee will be fighting to help workers, seniors, job creators, and others struggling with the various challenges facing the American economy. Our committee will be focused on protecting American taxpayers and restoring transparency and accountability in their government. Whether that be shedding more light on the IRS, whether it's looking at the Department of Health and Human Services and concerns over its plans to restrict Medicare coverage for innovative medications, whether it's the Treasury Department and its ongoing negotiations of an international tax agreement without congressional approval, the absence of a more robust trade policy at USTR that is needed to protect the interests of American workers. Oversight over the IRS, an agency that has chronically damaged its own integrity and abused the trust of the American people, alone will consume a substantial amount of time and resources. The Ways and Means Committee also has a broad jurisdiction over the health and retirement security of America's seniors, including Medicare and Social Security. These programs need to be protected. These issues and others will mean this committee will need to spend substantial time executing on our oversight responsibility. Congress must serve as a check and balance against unrestrained executive power so that there is accountability and scrutiny of policies coming out of the White House. The new House Republican majority has made it our commitment to act boldly on their behalf, and our committee, particularly the Ways and Means Committee, are the tip of the spear. We will combat today's inflation crisis and looming debt crisis, secure our nation's supply chains, and promote greater economic, financial, health, and energy security for American families. When it comes to developing these solutions, we must humbly admit that we do not have all the answers here in Washington. As chairman, I've made it a priority to take the Ways and Means Committee work outside the halls of Congress, away from the politically connected voices of Washington lobbyists and into the communities of the American people whose voices have far too long been ignored. We will hold filled hearings across the country and already held the first at the beginning of February in Petersburg, West Virginia. We heard from small business owners about their struggles as well as their solutions. We will be in Oklahoma City next Tuesday to learn more about how to provide relief and deliver results for working families. More funding will be needed to ensure these voices, the voices of regular Americans, get heard, and so we can turn their ideas into policies that will make their lives better. Additionally, the committee will need to recruit and hire staff with experience and expertise needed to both carry out our constitutionally required oversight duties and also help legally craft the ideas brought back from our field hearings. New pay orders in the House give us a competing shot at attracting some of the top minds, but now we need the resources to be able to meet the moment. For all these concerns, the committee requests a 17% increase in our budget for 2023, and because today's inflation crisis appears to be continued to rage, as economists like Larry Summers and Jason Furman have warned, we request an additional 10% increase for 2024 in order to build on this year's work. We will look out for the American taxpayer, and our committee will respect the resources they give us to carry out our duties. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chairman Smith. Ranking Member Neal, you're now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to the ranking member as well. I noticed there are 3 members of the Ways and Means Committee here. I think we've got a shot. So we are in support of the Ways and Means Committee budget submission. We were consulted on this, and we're pleased that the chairman sought our input. So I think there's broad unity here. I also want to acknowledge former Chairperson Zoe Lofgren for the increase in the last Congress. While previously we had received incremental increases, The Ways and Means Committee did receive an increase that put the allocation back to where it was in 2010. For some of us who have a long memory, up until 1994, members of the Ways and Means Committee, they had an allocation for an individual tax attorney or a CPA in their offices that was paid for from the Ways and Means budget. And I thought that that was very helpful to attracting the sort of talent that comes with very complicated matters and very complicated issues. Once that was eliminated, we saw kind of a downward spiral as to the funding for the committee, so we're grateful for what has happened recently. So for the first time in over a decade, we were able to offer competitive salaries and staff increases. I want to point something out as well. We worked with then minority Republicans and signed 2 letters with then Ranking Member Brady asking to dip into the reserve fund. This was a first for our committee. Both times, we gave the minority half instead of the usual 1/3. We thought that was very important for comity and also for amicability, and we will continue on that path in the minority as well. We understand there is no such thing in the modern age as a permanent majority. We want to make sure that we can continue to work together, again, on very technical issues. Our workload has surpassed that for which we've been funded. The current majority has asked for an increase in order to support field hearings. If there are any lessons that the historic pandemic taught us, it was clear that we would able ourselves to hold virtual hearings, that the committee might bring in witnesses to participate to make it a bit easier for the members as they want to participate fully in this process. I also would suggest that the Committee on Ways and Means has a long history of splitting the allocation at 2/3, 1/3, and at this time, I'm pleased to report that this will remain the practice. It has been one place where both sides can come to an agreement, and I thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much. The chair now controls 5 minutes for the purpose of asking questions, and I'll yield to Mr. Carey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Neal, appreciate your testimonies. Mr. Chairman, my question is going to be for you. You had mentioned in your budget submission that the committee is planning on purchasing document management software for this Congress. I mean, do you already know which document management software you will be purchasing, or are you in the process of researching different programs?
What we're looking at there is relatively is the document that we're looking at purchasing.
Okay. I yield back.
Do you have a question, Mr. Murphy? Yes, I sure do. I yield to Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Chairman and Ranking Member, for serving on the second most illustrious committee. Oh, that's right.
Correction stated, noted.
I thank you. We have important work to do, and I appreciate both of you putting your full force and effort into this. The committee is an important one for the well-being of this nation. I do, in this time of budget overruns and budget deficits and impending debt ceilings, just want to make sure we're spending our money wisely, as I'm sure you both do. It's not a question of this, but it is noteworthy that we make sure that we understand that as the Ways and Means Committee, we are held to, I think, a little bit higher standard of making sure that our money is spent correctly. In that, I applaud the chairman's desire to take our committee out into the country, and I think it's very, very important that people see the work that we're doing. I would like, though, to make sure that we are spending our money wisely. And if you could speak to that, Chairman, just with these field hearings, these oversight hearings, to make sure that we are being good stewards of the taxpayer dollars, especially in these times of budget crisis.
Thank you, Representative. Rest assured that we are attempting to spend diligently, appropriately on these field hearings. I do want to thank the House Admin Committee because our current field hearing that we're going to be having on Tuesday, you all were very helpful because our first field hearing that we had in West Virginia, we had an extra expense of roughly $10,000 because the House recording studio said no in coming 2 hours away, so we had to pay for it. And they tried to say it was because of the day that we were also in session that they would not be there. We have found it to be very convenient and fly in and fly out dates to do a field hearing. And so this one is also on Tuesday morning, and then we'll fly back. And you all helped accommodate that, which will save us at least $10,000 because the House recording studio is going to be a part of that hearing. So we're trying everything, but I also appreciate everything you all are doing to help with that.
Yes, sir. It is, substantial. If you look at the number here, we're asking for essentially in this 1/18th, a 30% increase over the last 1/17th. That's a big number. And both goes with the chairman and the ranking member that we make sure that our money is spent appropriately. I think it goes without saying that that's an important thing for us, and we appreciate your diligence in that regard. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield back.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your commitment to particular doing the field hearings. I think it's really important to get outside of the echo chamber here in DC. And we stand committed to making sure that we're supporting your committee, but other committees as well, that are going to be on the road this Congress, and making sure that all the House entities are operating to the benefit of the committees, but ultimately to the American people. I will now yield 5 minutes to the ranking member.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Smith, thank you for being here. We had the privilege of serving together on the Budget Committee, and wish you all the best in your new responsibilities. And to Ranking Member Neal, who I think did a extraordinary job in your years as chair, and appreciate all that you continue to do. I am going to reserve time and yield to my colleague and friend and a member of the distinguished Ways and Means Committee, Ms. Sewell.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ranking Member. I want to welcome Chairman Smith and I have two chairmen, I'm sorry, Ranking Member Neal, for coming before the committee. I too sit on this illustrious and one of the oldest committee in Congress. We have huge responsibilities and jurisdictions that are under our watch. And I know that the budget has traditionally been 2/3 majority, 1/3 minority. And just want to assure, I think you said it in your opening, that you would honor that, but also that the ranking member would have an unrestricted access to that budgeted amount.
So glad that you're on the best committee in Congress, too, Representative. But
I have two best committees.
But the intention is to operate how we've always done in the past. 6 weeks on the job, but definitely taking the guidance from the folks that have been in the past, and that's how it should be done.
Thanks. Chairman Neal?
Well, I think one of the things that we need to acknowledge, and I'm supportive of the chairman's request and the budget here, but these field hearings are going to be pricey. And this was accomplished in the past through subcommittees traveling. And Mr. Mills, when he was the chairman of the committee, he did not allow for subcommittees. And then Mr. Rostenkowski became the chairman, and subcommittees were embraced. And then Mr. Archer stayed with it, and Mr. Archer actually, as the chairman, he allocated time for the subcommittees to travel. And the subcommittees, because I think in each instance, the subcommittees for a specific purpose, they generate an awful lot of expertise. And I think it's helpful to the overall debate. Not to suggest for 1 second we don't want people to participate if they desire to, but this formerly was the role of subcommittees to participate in it, whether you're on the tax subcommittee or health or trade. I think that there's ample opportunity to pick, for example, key trade jurisdictions. I mean, you might want to visit the Port of Louisiana, New Orleans, or you might want to visit the largest port in America, Los Angeles. And I think on the tax subcommittee, you might want to participate with taking a lot of questions across the heartland of the country. So I think there's ample opportunity for some specialties to be embraced. But I do think that it's a reminder here that this is going to be costly as time goes on when you're moving the number of members and staff across the country.
Well, thank you. I do know that you all enjoy a tradition of bipartisan support on this committee. It's critically important that we continue to embrace that, and I know that both of you are committed to that. I also would just like to put in a shameless plug for continuing our bipartisan health and rural and underserved communities health task force, of which Arrington and Dr. I just went quite blank. Okay, was a part of it, so I think that that's something that we that was very well done. And Danny Davis was the member that I represented the rural part. Look, I think that the idea of going to the heartland and going into leaving the district and going straight to people is going to be very important. I too just want to make sure that we're utilizing our money wisely, and I know it's the hope that it's truly bipartisan and we all participate. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back, and again, thank you both for being here today.
Thank you very much, Chairman Smith, Ranking Member Neal. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate your transparency and commitment to returning to regular order. Have a wonderful afternoon.